And we all think that we're all of these things. Truth be told is when you take a decision or your initial reaction to something in the brain, there's two systems, system one and system two. System one is emotional. It's where your intuition lies. It's where your all the data that comes in either way, through your ears, through your eyes, through your senses is processed. And this is when most of your decisions are taken. That's system one. System two is it analyzes, it solves very complex problems. It's very actually really truly logical and cerebral. So that's system two. But what most people don't understand, and that includes everybody by the way, that so I'm including myself, is 98% of all decisions that we take in a day, every day, all year in life, is taken by system one.
Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girls podcast. Wherever you are tuning in today, we are so glad to have you. I'm your host, Jennifer Loading, and we are ready to get this thing started. So I want to open up with this. What happens when someone takes the structure and discipline of the military, combines it with a passion for communication and leadership, and challenges the outdated norms of the corporate world? You get a bold new perspective on what leadership should look like, one that puts people first. And so I am so excited about this today because I have got to spend time with this amazing lady, before this show and on a previous conversation. I love her spirit, her energy. She's like a fireball. So this is just going to be, I think, an incredible episode. But before we can get her on to chat with us, we got to do a quick shout out to our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine.
All right. And with that, I want to make one more mention to head on over to startergirls.com. That's a Z, not an S. I say it every time. Why you want to go over there? For a couple reasons. If you have missed an episode, you can find them all on there. They're all updated every week. The other thing is you can sign up to be in our community and you can stay in the know as to what is happening in the Starter Girls world and what we're putting out. But also, there is a free quiz on there, and it is a lot of fun. It is a 2-minute quiz. It will help you figure out what your number one success block is that may be impacting your success right now. So head on over there, take the free quiz, get signed up in the community, and catch up on all the episodes that you missed. And we're going to bring our guest on, so I'm excited. Let's get this thing rolling. My guest today, Isabelle Fortin, began her journey in the Royal Canadian Air Force, where she spent a decade honing communication and leadership skills, eventually attending the prestigious Royal Canadian Leadership School. But it was her transition into the corporate world that sparked a deeper mission. Dismayed by the every person for themselves mentality she encountered, Isabelle set out to reimagine leadership from the ground up. Now, with over 30 years of combined military and business leadership experience, she empowers human-centered leaders to tap into their uniqueness of every team member. Using a revolutionary behavioral and motivation assessment tool, Isabelle helps CEOs and HR leaders improve communication, culture, retention, and profitability. She's also the dynamic host of the Human Leader live stream and a powerful speaker and consultant known for her customized Against the Ordinary approach. And so, Isabelle, welcome to the show. We are so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. You know what? Every time I hear my bio being read to me, I go, holy how? When did I get old? Well, how is it that I have 30 years experience? And this thought goes through my mind and I go, yeah, I have over 30 years experience.
Isn't that crazy how that is?
I know. Yeah.
I always joke. I say this, it's funny because I feel like almost every episode we do, somebody says something about the bio. And I tell people, they've heard that my listeners know, this is my favorite part. I mean, I love all the conversation, but I really love crafting these because I think those bios are so freaking powerful. Like you just said, we lose sight of where we've come and where we are. We get so used to it because we just wake up and that's who we are every day, right? But it almost puts us back in that perspective of going, wow, I did all those things and look how far I've come and look at what I'm doing now and the impact I'm creating. And so I just think they're fun and they're powerful, and I really enjoy crafting them for you, for all y'all when you come on here.
Well, you do a good job at it.
Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully you feel special. That's what we want.
I do. I am special.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, let's get this thing rolling here. So I want to talk about what you are doing, because your leadership is a big thing. We're talking about culture. So tell us a little bit about this company, what you're doing for your clients.
Well, so what I do for my clients is I help the leaders tap into the unique abilities of every single individual on the team. And why do I do that? Well, because everybody wins. The company wins, the bottom line wins, the leader wins, and the employees win. Because it's when you know what is that special thing about you, what is it that you contribute to the team that nobody else does? What is it when they tap into that, your own unique ability? Well, as an individual, as an employee, you feel, seen, heard, valued because you are all these things. But it also has what I call the dinner table effect. When you go to work, you spend, I don't know, 40, 50, 60 hours a week at, on location, or even, from your home on your computer, and you know what it is that you contribute that nobody else does. Well, what does that do to your day? And what does that do to your mood? So you show up better at your dinner table. You show up better for your kids, for your spouse, for your community, for your parents, your siblings, your friends, and everybody. And it impacts their lives and the people that they are in conversations or in contact with. So it affects everybody.
Yeah.
And that's why I do it. Ultimately, that's how I do it, because for extremely selfish reasons, I want to use my own unique abilities to impact the world, so that I know how I contributed to the world. And if I work with leaders, that is the way to impact the most amount of people out there.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with you on that. And I like that you said the part about like they have the impact around with the people that are around them, because I think a lot of us, and I'm sure not everybody, but a lot of us, that's kind of the way we think. I know that's why I do the work. And I just told somebody this the other day, for selfish reasons, my world's a better place. I mean, really, like when we are around people that are leading, they're making a difference, like our world is smoother, right? Like it really is just smoother. And I was saying our world would be better today if we had more leaders in it. You know what I mean? More people that could rise up and be effective at communication and all those things that we need to be great leaders. So yes, there is the potential to have, the impact on those around us. And it can be simple things as, how you're raising your children, to how you're, handling media, and community groups that you're involved in, to how you're dealing with people at work, your peers. And if you're in leadership, your employees.
Absolutely.
So.
It impacts the world. That's where we spend the most time awake, obviously, in our lives is at work.
Yeah.
So if you wake up on Monday morning and you're, feeling crappy because you have 5 days of this crap to go through, man, there's something wrong. Right?
Yeah.
And I truly don't think we were put on this planet to suffer for 5 days and enjoy only 2. Come on.
Right.
Life is better than that.
Yeah, no, I agree. You want to be living for like Friday, right? It's always Monday and Friday. I always joke and say it's always Monday and Friday, but it's not because I'm having bad days and I'm dreading going back. It's just because I'm so dang busy and loving what I'm doing all the time. I'm like, freaking Friday always shows up, and then it turns around and it's Monday and the week is starting over again. I'm like, dude, how does it go by so fast? I'm like, it does. Every week I feel like just flies through for me, and probably you too, probably the whole world, except for when you're a kid.
You know what? It's so funny that you say that, Jennifer, because every morning I write in my journal, and I wrote the date, and I went, April 7th, and I keep on writing, and I stopped myself for a minute, and I said, how the heck are we the 7th of April already?
Yeah.
It was April 1st yesterday. How did 6 days pass
Right.
without me noticing anything? But the older we get, the more this is, a real thing in our lives.
Mhm.
Time is going by so bloody quickly.
Yeah.
So, you truly have to make the most out of it
Right.
and grab it by the balls and have fun, dude, because if you blink too often, your life is going to be over.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
And
just,
you want to be effective in that time that
yeah,
you're here. So be
absolutely.
a good
Have
leader, right?
fun. Yeah, absolutely.
That's so great. So when your clients come to talk to you, you said you're working with leaders. Now you do speaking as well. So are you going and doing like workshops with these guys, or is it more like a one-on-one type training that you're doing in this leadership capacity?
It is all of that.
All of it.
So I'm a keynote speaker. That's one part of my business, and the truth be told, that's the part that I love the most.
Yeah, I
Um,
imagine that. Yes.
and yeah, because I was given the gift of blab. But when I work with a leader, I rarely, it happens once in a while where I will only work with the individual, but most of the time I work with the
Team.
leader and the team.
Yeah.
So the first thing that I do is everybody goes through my assessment, and it's actually from Switzerland. It's called the NOVA assessment.
Okay.
It's a quote unquote personality test.
Right.
And I cannot tell you how much I hate that term because nobody's personality is there to be tested.
Right.
So I prefer a psychometric assessment because in reality, that's exactly what it is. So everybody goes through that. And everybody goes through their own personalized debriefing that lasts 90 minutes. It's not a small thing. The report that I get from the NOVA platform, from the assessment, is anywhere between 25 to 40 pages long. So it's a real
Yeah.
in-depth way of how is your brain connected. That's
Right.
basically what the assessment is telling me.
Yeah.
So everybody goes through their own individual thing. But then after that, there's two things that happen. The first thing is I will do quick or quicker debrief of every single individual to the leader. And with that, I provide what I call a cheat sheet. So instead of having the leader that is already overwhelmed, overbooked, and doesn't have time, instead of having them read the 25 to 40 pages report on each of their team members, I create a 3 pages thing saying, hey, listen, this is how you better communicate. This is what to avoid. And this is what you tap into to get the
Good.
best result for
Yep.
each and every individual. So then I have the meeting with just the leader about their team members. But then we all come together. And that part of my business I call the prenuptial agreement. And I'm
Like
going to
it.
tell you why. Because this is life. You're going to have a bad day. Your colleague's going to have a bad day. Your boss is going to have a bad day. People are dealing with stuff you know nothing about, and you
Right.
know nothing about them because it's none of your business.
Right.
And that's okay because not every part of ourselves belong to our coworkers. So conflict is going to arise, period. That is, if you're dealing with more than one human, there's going to be potential for conflicts. So
Yeah.
what I do is I have the entire team come together and we come up with the strategy of how we're going to deal with one another with empathy, with kindness, with patience, and with the profound understanding that every member of the team is just a human doing their damn best
Yeah.
at every given moment. And when you come up with a strategy that works for them. So for me, there's no cookie cutter workshop that I
Right.
can take from one team, apply to the other team, and every single thing that I do with a company or with a team is customized to that particular team because not everybody works the same, and therefore, no, not every team works.
Yeah.
And so that's basically what I do. And after that, if
It's
the leader
interesting.
keeps on wanting or to work with me on an individual level, then I do because then I can, say how do you apply that on your daily life?
Yeah.
Because You know what? I say that all the time, Jennifer. A psychometric assessment it's like a treadmill. Treadmills are extremely efficient if you use
Yeah.
them. If you put them in the basement and all it does is collect dust, you're not going to
Right,
get in
right.
shape. But
Yeah.
if you put it in front of your television and every time you want to watch the TV, you have to be walking on the treadmill, holy goodness gracious, you're going to get a lot of results. Same thing applies. Same thing applies to everything in your life,
Sure.
but same thing applies for psychometrics.
Yeah.
You're not going
No,
to
it makes sense. And well, and interesting, like, because I just recently developed a four-step system that I use to work with my clients. And that is a piece of what I do in there too. It's not probably as in depth as yours. And I love this. And it's making me think right now, I need to figure out like my own, like some kind of assessment that I want to do for that. But it's not as prevalent as what I'm doing in my particular situation. But that is a big thing, because my point to this is that it's important to know your strengths and weaknesses, because you can thrive better. It's not that we want to focus on the weaknesses or be like over here. It's just that I think it's all part of self-awareness when we're talking about self-awareness, right? And it's really tying into emotional intelligence, efficiency, whatever the word, EQ, whatever you want to call it, right? Emotional coach, whatever. It's knowing where you're going to thrive, right? Because if you can understand how you work and operate, you're from the employee perspective, they're going to, like you said, be heard, feel seen, all of those things, because they're going to be in an environment where now they're thriving, right? And for the employer, they're going to have more efficiency because now they're putting people in the right places and they know how to work with them and what to do with them. And like, like it's almost like, I was just talking to somebody yesterday, funny enough, she's a French teacher, funny enough. And I took French. And so it was fun. We met, somebody connected us. We went to a cute little French restaurant here in town. And we were talking about, she was telling me how she feels sometimes she's a people person and maybe not as much on the logic side. And I said, sometimes we need more people over logic. We thrive on being practical and logical, but when you're dealing with humans, we need to bring a little more people into this. And I think that by doing that, what you're talking about is you're really kind of doing that, because you're saying, yes, I may want to do this because this looks right for my systems. And this person got a degree in this particular place and we put them there, but they're not thriving there. That's not where they are doing their best. And how many people do we know go get degrees, right? And they realize midstream, they don't even like what they're doing, right? Because it's not in alignment with what they see themselves doing, in alignment with what they're good at, right? Like I studied accounting. And then I realized in the middle of that, I was like, okay, I'm good at math, but I just can't sit behind a desk and do numbers all day. I need to be in front of people talking and engaging. And I'm like, just put me, maybe you just put me in Walmart as a greeter and I might be happy because I just need to greet people. I'm joking about that, but I'm a person that needs to be like talking to people and engaging and not sitting behind the desk. And so I think there's definitely a need for understanding from an employer perspective, how your people thrive so that you can get them in the right places and they can feel heard and seen, and they're going to be happier.
And you know what? I want to bounce off something you said, if I may.
Absolutely.
We all think ourselves, we all think, but I'm a rational being and I'm logical and we all think that we're all of these things. Truth be told is when you take a decision or your initial reaction to something in the brain, there's two systems, system 1 and system 2. System 1 is emotional. It's where your intuition lies. It's where your all the data that comes in either way, through your ears, through your eyes, through your senses is processed. And
Right.
this is when most of your decisions are taken. That's system 1. System 2 is, it analyzes, it solves very complex problems. It's very actually really, truly logical and cerebral. So that's system 2. Well, what most people don't understand, and that includes everybody by the way, that so I'm including myself, is 98% of all decisions that we take in a day, every day, all year in life, is taken by system 1, which means it is emotional, it is irrational, it is full of cognitive biases. And by the way, guys, cognitive biases, you have some, period.
Right.
Don't think you don't have any, you do.
Yeah.
And everybody has.
Right.
And everybody does, I should say. And it's not laziness. It's shortcut that your brain created out of necessity, because your brain takes 20% of all of the energy of your entire body, even though it weighs about 2 pounds, 2.5
Yeah.
pounds.
Right.
So that's why it created biases. So we all have some. So if you truly, truly want to appeal to the logic of somebody, so have access to system 2, you have to acknowledge system 1. But we don't. Because if I'm in a conflict with you, I want you to do what I want. That's what I want, right? Ultimately. And you want me to do what you want.
Right.
And if both of us knock heads, I mean, we get along, but if both of us knock heads from system 1 to system 1 and system 1 to system 1 all of the time, it's like taking a rock, hitting your head on it, and keep on hitting your head.
Yeah.
Because that's all you're getting. So in order to get to system 2 and actually have a quote unquote intelligent conversation, you have to acknowledge that the other person's emotion. And that's where empathy and adaptability and all of the EQ comes into play.
Yeah.
So it's so funny because I had a spat with my boyfriend yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And truth be told, we are in a recent relationship for our age. I'm 53, he's 59, and we've been together a year. So, I mean, it's not that long. We don't live together, and thank goodness for that. We're not gonna. So, yeah, no, I'm not built for cohabitation. I really
I
am.
love it.
I'm
I love it.
not
You're
built
like,
for
no,
it.
we're just not doing that.
Exactly. And he's not built for it either. So thank goodness we found one another. But anyway,
so awesome.
back to the original story. We're having a spat yesterday. And my system 1 is screaming at me. WTF.
Right.
So instead of saying, for the love of God, can you tell me why you did it this way? I caught myself, and that's the truth. Because I caught myself.
Yeah.
And instead of saying WTF, I went, honey, pause. Can you please help me understand this particular behavior of yours? Because it's triggering stuff inside me.
Right.
And I would like to understand you better so we can come together and this behavior not affect me the way it's affecting me right now. You think we got mad at one another? No.
No, it came,
We sat down and we talked. We talked with an open heart and an open mind. And when that was over, nobody was mad. And we came to an understanding and an agreement that when he does that, because more than likely it's a behavior,
right.
more than likely it's going to arise again before it's corrected.
Right.
And I know it has nothing to do with me now. So I'm not going to get mad at it. And I'm just going to say, hon, can
let's maybe not do that.
and then he can autocorrect if I catch him or if he catches himself.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Right.
But is that easy? Oh, no, not easy.
No.
It's just that I knew that if I got mad and rose some hell, because that's my style, then I would not get what I wanted. Right? So even if we take for granted, and it isn't true, I know it isn't true, but even if we took for granted that I did that for selfish reasons, so what?
Right.
My life is getting better.
It's better.
And so is his, by the way.
Yeah.
It is a life conflict. I got a temper on me. Let me tell you. You know that.
I can probably figure that out.
I got a temper. I'm hot-blooded. But hot-blooded is not going to work with him.
Right.
So if I want him in my life, I have to adjust that too. Yeah. So it just becomes better.
Right. Yeah. No, and I want to commend you on something very back in the beginning when you were talking about the systems, because I think this is so good, because I'm aware of all that, but I've never had anybody quite put it in that perspective. And I think it's really good from a practical standpoint, because you painted that as logical and practical. System one, system two. You got to go through system one to get to system two. And I would agree with you on every piece of that. I've just never heard anybody quite put it in that way. So I commend you on that, because somebody listening to this may have said, the same thing. I've heard that, but never quite thought of it that way. Or maybe somebody that, especially men, because they don't get a lot of times this logic and practical. They just know logic, right? And it's funny because I feel like I just had this conversation with my husband yesterday too. I think it was, or maybe it was Saturday morning, about this. We were talking about the people over logic, that you can't always just say the things you want to say, because if you're doing this in the middle of a conversation, the other person may not feel seen or heard. And now you have basically, they're going to feel gaslighted. And now whatever you have to say, they don't care about at this point, because they've already felt unseen and unheard. Okay. So now they're shutting you down. And so all of this we're talking about here is so important. I feel like we could have a whole conversation on communication, role play communication for people, right? Because it is so huge and people don't get it. And when you start to learn these things, like you were talking about the pausing and all of that, like I talk, I do that too. I always think about, like, okay, if I say this, is this what we want to be saying right now? Is this going to be effective? Is it going to cause a bigger problem if we do this? I mean, these are things that you have to learn to do. We don't just wake up and we know how to do these behaviors, right? I didn't learn this skill. I had to work on training myself. And I say that, with a little disclaimer that I'm also human. So I'm not perfect. And I'm sure you're not either. We do mess up sometimes, right? But we try to do it. And I think of it sort of like doing CPR. Like if you train to do CPR and you had to use it, you may not be 100% know everything, but you're going to do something, and something's better than nothing. And that's how I feel about this kind of stuff when we're talking about leadership, is that the more you continue to learn, yes, you're going to mess up. You're not going to be 100% perfect at all the time, but you're going to keep getting better each time that you work through these things. And then you just become more effective at communication and working with, yes, personal, intimate relationships, but also colleagues, employees, all those things on the other side, other family members, all of it.
It applies everywhere.
Yes.
It applies everywhere. Because the way that you get your boss to give you a raise, the way that you negotiate with your husband or your wife or your life partner, or whatever you want to call that person, on where to go on vacation, or whether you're negotiating with a 4-year-old so that they eat their broccoli, it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
It is.
And we're coming, especially, I mean, we're not in our 30s. I have 35 years experience, so obviously I'm not in my 30s anymore. Right. So, and the older that I get, and the more, not only am I able and willing, I should say willing, to show that I am imperfect, but I am embracing that imperfection.
Yeah.
Because you know what? Perfect would be boring as hell.
I agree.
So, you know what? Sometimes I mess up I put one foot in my mouth and there's still room, so I put the other foot, and it's just
there.
yeah, and it's messy, and thank God for that.
Yeah.
Thank God. It's so funny. I read a book a long time ago, and it was about exactly that. He says, okay, so the first chapter starts with like that. Okay, so imagine you're going on vacation to a nice, exotic resort, and it's beautiful, and it's, let's say 85 degrees, like warm, but not too warm, and it's not humid. It's by the sea, and you've got a little breeze. You're feeling happy. It's like, oh, perfect weather.
Yeah.
And you get a week of that. It's like, oh, perfect weather. And you get 3 weeks of that. It's like, oh, yeah, it's nice. And you get 6 weeks of that, and you go, when the hell's it gonna rain?
Right.
Because you need the rain. The rain washes everything,
Yeah.
And so I feel that that's, the beauty of life. Sometimes we fight with our spouses, or we fight with our kids, or we fight with our friends, and it clears the path.
Yeah.
Right? It clears the path for better communication. And sometimes it just clears the path, because sometimes you're going to speak your truth, and somebody is going to be offended by it and they're going to walk out of your life. And if they walk out, that's okay. Let them.
Yeah, right. No, it's good. I think that really the overarching message here is really just about effective leadership and communication. So I love all of this. So tell us a little bit about your show, what you got going on with that, so people know a little bit about it.
Oh, I haven't had an episode in a long time, to be honest with you, because I got overwhelmed with stuff to do and clients. But
you're just too busy, changing lives. It's okay. It happens.
Yeah, but actually, thank you for the question, because it's putting back in my mind. It was truly about meeting leaders and finding. It was short, like half an hour, and it was about knowing. Okay, so what'd you learn? How'd you learn it? And if you could teach yourself something about, teach your younger self something about leadership, what would it be? Like, to save yourself time. Yeah. And you know what, Jennifer? It all boils down to the same thing. It all boils down to the same thing. It's listening and being there and truly tapping into the individuals.
Yeah.
Because that's how you get the most out of it. And you know what? Human beings, we need to be seen, heard, and valued. But honestly, the level of our needs is not that. You just say thank you. You just and profoundly mean it, and that's the energy behind it. And you just tell someone, hey, by the way, I haven't, even a colleague, hey, I haven't told you in a while, but what you did in this particular thing? Oh, goodness gracious, if it wasn't for you, we would have, it would have been much, much, much harder, or it would have taken longer if it wasn't for your contribution. And they will ride on that wave for weeks.
Yeah.
And they'll be willing to crawl through broken glass. Not that they should.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So no, and I'm glad that I asked you that. So maybe you'll bring it back now that I asked you this. It's funny. I have another, I was doing 2 shows for a while. So I have another one out there too. That's it's got so many great stories on it that I just left it accessible, because I don't want to take it down now, because I know people, the stories are great and people want to listen to them. So, but no, I think it's great. And that's one of the things I love about this show is the stories, is talking to people about, what they've done and what they've learned in that process. And I feel like the truths are all universal. People say a lot of the same things. They just take a spin on them a little bit differently. And I think that's what's beautiful, is that we all can walk into this from different places and have these journeys that are a little bit, they're unique, but there's a lot of universal truths in them that shine through, And so I think this one we're talking today has really been a lot about, embracing uniqueness in the individual. Obviously, you are a unique individual and I'm a unique individual. And you're probably thinking like I am, like, I'm not going to be strapped in a box. I don't want anybody to tell me what I'm supposed to be doing and what I'm not, because I'm probably not going to go along with that. It has to be my thing, my journey, my path, my podcast, my work, all of it. It has to be my thing, and I think there's great things in learning stubbornness. It can be a bad thing sometimes, but it has certainly served me well in many times over my years. So I think, embracing our uniqueness is important here. And I think you're giving people permission to do that. And you're showing your leaders that they too don't have to be cookie cutter mold type people. They can be different and they can embrace their people and show them a culture where they too can be unique individuals,
Absolutely. And you know what? It's so funny, because when everybody talks to me about fitting in a box, I go, I'm 5'10", 175 pounds. I don't fit in the damn box.
You don't fit in it?
I just don't. I don't fit. And
That's
I
great.
never, and you know what, Jennifer, you and I both, even though we don't come from the same place, we're both lucky enough to be born in a free country. I live in a country where I have freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to live, to love whomever I want, and nobody's going to make me shut up. Worst case scenario, I'll look stupid, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
So,
well, and sometimes you got to look stupid, I mean, think about it. A lot of people that have done great things have looked stupid in the process of, in face of doing great things. So There's nothing wrong with that. I think that comes with part of the the risk that you take is being whatever it is you're pursuing, or whether it's a passion project or being a voice to something, whatever that is. And so I think you're doing a great thing by giving people that freedom to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. So it's all good. So I imagine that somebody listening, it's funny. I never know where these episodes are going to go. And it's so funny because we spent a lot of time today talking about something that's really important. And that's great, because I think people need to hear these things about communication on it, because it's not just a one thing. Like, you just need to navigate it in the home. You need to navigate it everywhere. Or let's just say this, bottom line, you're not going to get what you want. You're not going to get what you want if you don't learn to communicate. Exactly. You're going to be miserable. Right. You're going to be a miserable person. You've got to learn to communicate. So this is really good. And it's good for all. It doesn't matter how old you are. You've got to learn to communicate. Right. And so I think this is so important topic. But I say that because I never know where these episodes are going to lead to. And that's what I think is so beautiful about these conversations, is that they're just raw, they're unique, and they're just however we ebb and flow this thing. So I know somebody listening to this today is going to be like, okay, where do I find this Isabelle girl? I like her personality. I need to catch up with her, follow her, check her workout, whatever. Where do you want us to send them?
And my website is againsttheordinary.org, because I am against the ordinary, period, but against the ordinary leadership as well. And you can find me on LinkedIn. If you're listening to the audio, it's Isabelle Fortin, the one with the purple hair. Because there's a bunch of us. I think there's 150 of us. So find the one with the purple hair. And, I was going to say LinkedIn. I just said that. YouTube and all these things. It's Isabelle Fortin. I'm pretty easy.
It's awesome. And so I'm gonna say this. I would imagine that as a child, you were not like just the easy going along with everything kind of child, right? Like you were always kind of a little bit of a fighter.
No. I really wasn't.
And
it's so funny you say that, Jennifer, because I wasn't in the military anymore, but I was working for a corporation, and during a meeting, one of the C-suite shushed me in a meeting.
Oh, you're like,
and I looked at him, and I was I must have been early 30s, and I looked at him dead in the eyes. I said, my dad couldn't make me shut up when I was 8. What chance do you think you stand today? Nobody makes me shut up. Worst case scenario, disagree with what I'm saying, but I get to speak. And no. You and I might have been in trouble. I was a sad kid, though. I was a very, very sad child. So
yeah,
nobody makes me shut up.
I'm laughing, and I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just thinking, if you and I had been friends, because we're about the same age, if you and I had been friends when we were little, we would have been in trouble. I think we would have been in trouble, because I was telling somebody the other day, like I was a kid, and I'm going to end this, but I want to tell this story really quick, but it's because it's funny and you're going to get it. I was the kid that my mom would say to me when I was little. She would say, go stand in the corner. When you can say you're sorry, you can come out. Well, guess what would happen? She'd get tired of looking at me in the corner and send me to my room, because I could stand in that corner forever, because I was not going to give in to the argument that I was arguing about. I was going to stay there until I got released. And she'd finally just be like, go to your room. I'm tired of looking at you.
Yeah.
So I have a joke now as an adult. Like, if I'm onto something, I'm like, and most of the time I'm joking about this, but I'll say, you're not going to win this argument. I can assure you, I can stand in a corner for a very long time.
Yeah, see, I had the same reasoning, but I'd do the opposite. Is I'd go apologize even if I didn't mean it, because you
wanted to get out. Yeah, you wanted to get out.
So
no, you're way smarter than I was.
I didn't care.
Yeah, you were smarter. I was like, I'm not giving in. I'm not telling you I'm sorry because I don't think I'm wrong, so I'm just not giving in. You're just going to leave me in this corner forever.
It's great. Sorry, don't mean it. And I would think to myself, well, you can control where I am physically, but you can't control what I think. So I'm gonna tell you what you don't want to hear, and then I'll be over with.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Isabelle, you're an amazing person. I love your boldness and your uniqueness and your purple in your hair and all of that. It's all good stuff. And we need bold people in the world. The world would be very dull if we did not have unique and bold in the world. We need it, right? Yeah. So this has been so awesome. I want to thank you for the talk and giving us your wisdom. And really, every episode I remember bits and pieces, and I really like the system thing you talked about today, because you just made it in a fashion where somebody maybe that wants to claim they're on the logical, practical side might be able to grab onto that and understand that and run away with it the next time they go to communicate. So thank you for all of that. It's been awesome.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great conversation as usual.
Awesome. All right. Of course, to our audience, we love you, appreciate you. Thank you for tuning into this episode. We hope you found it both inspiring and informative. And if you did, do all the things. Share it, like it, comment, do all the things so we can keep sharing all the fabulous content with you guys. And I want to leave you with what I always say at the end of every episode. In order to live the extraordinary, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you next time.